killed and more than 100 injured in a bomb blast in the Thai capital, Bangkok. The device went off at a busy intersection near a popular Hindu shrine, and foreigners are among the dead. No one has yet claimed responsibility for the attack, which has shocked the country. In Colombia, thousands of children have been kidnapped and killed during decades of conflict between government forces and the leftist guerrilla, the FARC movement. Well, the violence is not as bad as it once was. Talks to formally end the conflict have failed to address the issue of human rights abuses on both sides. That's left many of those affected to cope on their own.
Unable to hold their missing children, they channel their pain into this symbol of a better past. Each of these women has lost a son or a daughter, taken by Colombia's armed conflict. They meet once a week to support each other and to spend time making these dolls. This one is Juanita Montoya's only son, who went missing near Medellin 13 years ago. The card attached bearing witness to his mother's suffering. "I'm looking for my son," it says, "and for the truth."
This is something that's helped us heal our pain. Being able to work on the doll and to say, "I'm going to dress it like my son." This is like a triumph that we've been able to achieve in this very difficult time, because this is all very hard for a mother.
The dolls are dressed to look like their lost sons and daughters. Each one of them carries an identity card telling their story.
Healing means getting back the memory of your child. It means that the doll will live on, and it's going to have a person who is going to adopt it and love it.
Like thousands of other parents in Colombia, these women have learned to live with a sense of powerlessness. With their inability to find and rescue their loved ones, the dolls they've made a monument to their silent pain.
All right, we're going to head to a different part of the world now, and our very own Ben Fazulin is on the business desk. He has a story on East Africa's ambitions to become a global oil-producing hub. Ben, can they do it?
Oh, they sure could, according to our correspondent in Nairobi. We'll talk to her in a second. First of all, it's usually West Africa, of course, when you think about oil, like Nigeria, for example, but both Uganda and Kenya want to get in on the act. They've discovered valuable deposits in the past years, and now they're working together on a pipeline project. It's absolutely massive, 1,500 kilometers long. As you can see there, it begins in Hoima. It goes through the oil-producing fields of Lokicha and then on to the harbour city of Lamu. Now, the two nations signed off on a bilateral trade agreement just last week. It also included other economic sectors. More in a moment from our correspondent. First, this.
Neighbouring countries Kenya and Uganda have something in common. With annual economic growth of around 7%, they're among the most successful countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And they've got oil, lots of oil. The revenue from oil production is giving the two countries an extra boost. That's why the neighbours have decided to cut back trade restrictions and increase cooperation. This includes the sugar trade. Kenya will soon begin importing sugar from Uganda. That's bad news for the partially state-owned Kenyan sugar producers. They're worried about price competition with commercial rivals in Uganda. On the other hand, the Kenyan beef and dairy industry is set to profit from the deal. In the near future, they'll be able to send meat and milk products to Uganda. But it's the oil pipeline that could prove risky for Kenya. It's projected to run further north than originally planned. It'll pass through a region currently plagued by Islamist Boko Haram militants. Critics are worried that terrorists from neighbouring Somalia could attack the oil pipeline.
We'll get to those challenges in a moment. First of all, let's discuss the concept of East Africa becoming an oil hub with Edith Kimani. Edith, tell me, this has the potential, obviously, to change the face of East Africa for bad or worse.
Absolutely, but I think more positively than anything, what East Africa is trying to do, as we've seen with that union between Kenya and Uganda, is they're trying to attract oil investors who had said that, look, we're really happy with the exploration that's happening in the two countries individually, but they weren't ready to commit financially until the route of the pipeline was laid out. And now that that's happened, the two countries are hoping that they'll be able to attract this money. And there's also, you know, the luxury of being called an oil hub. Who doesn't want that? Oil money is good for any economy, and there's strength in numbers in this case.
Well, in some regions, of course, oil money has become less of a blessing and more of a curse in some cases. But could East Africa really, does it have the potential to sell itself as a hub and to get something positive out of this?
Absolutely, yes. It was rightly said in the report that there's lots of oil in this region. I mean, we're talking about Kenya and Uganda alone. Let's not forget that South Sudan is in this mix, as is Sudan, because of the Abyei oil-rich region. And Ethiopia has accelerated the oil exploration processes, so it's expected to also be an oil-producing nation very soon. And if you're looking at the wider East African region, you throw in the Congo, for example, the Central African Republic, and you can see the potential. And we're being told that in Uganda, for example, the recoverable reserves will be up to 6.5 billion barrels, and Kenya is expected to be producing 1 billion barrels. So no small figures there.
Okay, so the potential is there, but what about the challenges?
Challenges are huge. I'll tell you that for free, Ben. And you know what else is not free? This pipeline is going to cost an estimated $4 billion US. And the only commitment that there is right now is from the World Bank for $540 million US. And while that's great, there are still oil investors who are being sought after, private investors. The Kenyan government and the Ugandan governments have yet to say how exactly they're going to finance this project. And then there's the issue of security. Lokichar, the north part of Kenya, where this pipeline is going to go through, is susceptible to cattle rustling, which often leads to death. And Lamu, down there in the coast, a lot of kidnappings from the Al-Shabaab. So it's interesting to see how this will play out with those challenges.
Edith Kamani for us there in Nairobi. Nothing's for free in life, is it? And let's get the view from Wall Street on this mammoth investment story. Jose Luis Tejado joins us. Jose, good to see you there. Are traders looking